How's it going, Ding Dongs? Welcome to another episode of Ding Dong Drift. Since I'm in the middle of a very large project, as you can see there, I thought I'd make a quick little video on how to make your engine bay look clean. So my engine bay isn't the greatest. It's not the cleanest. I don't have every hose tucked. I don't have every wire tucked, but it is pretty decent for as far as SC400s go. For the most part, this video will be about SCs, or SC400s, I should say. And it might apply to other cars. So first up, we're gonna start with the biggest thing that you can remove in an SC, or change, I should say, and that is the fan. The hydraulic fan is absolutely massive. It adds another pump here, and it adds all these lines that go underneath and over and up, and there's reservoirs and stuff. So getting rid of the hydraulic fan really cleans up the engine bay, because then all you have is these nice smaller fans that just have a little wire coming off of them, which is way simpler. After that, you can move the battery to the trunk or the back seat like I have, but I'm gonna move my battery again. But battery in the SC is right here. Same thing with the fuse box, but I'll get to the fuse box later. After that, we got the air box in the SC, which is right here. Big old box that sits right here, takes up a bunch of room, has an ugly corrugated hose on it, and then the big MAF sensor, and then another ugly plastic pipe. If you're still running the stock ECU, obviously you can't get rid of the MAF. As people have found out, running a filter like this actually loses power on the 1UZ compared to the original airbox. An intake like this would look nicer, but at the cost of losing power. I'm on a standalone ECU, so I doubt I'm losing any power, because getting rid of the intake, or at least changing the piping on the intake from the big plastic pipe and the corrugated pipe to either some silicone joiners or aluminum 45 bend like I have here, makes it look a lot nicer. Another thing you can get completely rid of is the traction control module. So in the SC, the traction control module sits right here. It's this big brick thing, and then it has a cable running to the throttle body that attaches to this loop right here, and that's what controls the cruise control on this car. You can completely get rid of that. Another thing you can get rid of is the EGR on a stock engine. There's this big bulbous thing right here. That is the EGR port, or EGR solenoid. Also on the back of the engine, it's hard to see there, there's a little pipe that comes off and goes to the intake. You can get rid of that as well. And you can get these EGR delete plates on my website if you'd like. These are 3D printed in PETCF, so carbon reinforced PET, not PETG. And it's temperature resistant to like 200 Celsius. You can almost put it on the exhaust. So if you delete the EGR, you'll notice that you'll have some coolant lines that are just chilling. Those can all be capped. Basically, all the lines running all around the engine, there's these little coolant lines that run all around the engine. They attach to the throttle body, they attach to the idle air valve, the EGR, and they go right there. See, mine are welded shut. You can delete all of those and just cap that little pipe that sticks out of there, or you can remove that water neck completely and have it welded shut like I did. Another thing you can do is delete the idle air valve with one of my idle air delete plates. This will affect your drivability, or I should say cold starts, because what you have to do is use the throttle stop screw right here. You're gonna have to use this screw to set your idle, and then when it's cold, it's gonna idle lower, and when it's hot, it's gonna idle higher. Makes it kind of a pain in the ass if you're driving your car in the winter. You gotta hold the throttle so the car doesn't die on a cold start, but it looks much better trying to idle air valve sitting on top of your engine. If you delete both of those things, you can delete all the vacuum lines that come off the engine. You can just cap those, and also cap those, because the only thing you're gonna need is the one going to your fuel pressure regulator, which is right here, the charcoal canister. Speaking of the charcoal canister, you can also delete that. As you can see, I don't have one. In its place is a Mishimoto oil catch can. It is vented. I have a vent on this valve cover and a vent where the old PCV used to be. While we're in this corner on SCs, the ABS block is right here, and it is absolutely massive on early models. On later models, it gets a little smaller, becomes a little aluminum block instead of this giant steel casing. That is also a spot for huge weight reduction. That thing weighs a lot. Things like 10 to 15 pounds maybe. So you can get rid of that completely, and it's actually really easy. All you have to do is get 2 of these brake line tees. You don't even have to do anything. You can just bend the old brake lines to fit in this and then just tuck them in here. Either cover them with a plate or something, or just leave them. But it looks way better than having this giant block with like 8 or 9 brake lines running off of it. If you delete the ABS, you can also delete the ABS actuator, which is right here, or like right here, I think. It's like this big cylinder thing. That can be deleted, as well as all the relays that go with the brake system. There's like a pack of 4 relays. You can get rid of all of those, and then you can get rid of the wire that comes here. Goes to your original harness. You can chop all that off. Just make sure you don't chop off the igniters. Another free thing you can do is relocate the power steering reservoir. It's usually sitting on this little bracket right here, and it's huge. It's like, it sits in here and it sticks up like this high. Looks terrible. So what you can do is, I created this little bracket, put a riv nut into the shock tower, and now it's mounted right here using the same original hose. I think I just have longer return lines. So that's basically it for all of the either free stuff you can completely get rid of, or the cheap stuff that you can either modify or buy replacements for. Now I'm gonna get into the more expensive stuff, or the large modifications that really clean up your engine bay. So first thing is a standalone ECU and harness. Once you go to coilover plug, you can get rid of the entire distributor system. 2 distributors, all the spark plug wires, all of those can go, and you can go to a coil on plug conversion and have the entire harness tucked underneath the intake in the back of the engine, so you barely even see it. That is one of the biggest things that will clean up your engine bay. It will make your car run better. You can get rid of the idle air valve easily. Vacuum leaks don't matter anymore. They just raise your idle. Because you'll no longer be running a MAF, it's running on a MAP sensor now, so any extra air just raises the idle a little bit. Vacuum leak basically aren't an issue anymore. Yeah, it just really simplifies the entire engine. Gets rid of a ton of wires, gets rid of a bunch of stuff. Everything is underneath the engine. You can barely even see it. Another thing you can do is convert your fuel system to PTFE lines. AN fittings are always cool. These ones from Finish Line Factory look great, all black. If you convert your fuel system to PTFE, you can run E85. The list of benefits goes on and on. It can handle more fuel. And now back to the fuse box. This is gonna be probably the most expensive thing. You could do it where you cut the wires, extend them, and tuck the fuse box somewhere inside the car, or maybe even under the car, or maybe in the front of the bumper here. If you get rid of your fluid reservoir, all that stuff, you could do that, or you could go really expensive and do a PDM. So it's hard to see, but back here I have my PDM. So all of my fuses and relays are literally just right there. The entire car harness runs from that one central spot, and I rewired my whole car with just the absolute bare minimum. So we have starter, alternator, and then we have underglow, which isn't necessary. And then here in this little loom, we have the fans, headlights, turn signals, and running lights. That's it. That entire harness that usually gets chewed up inside the fender, that's all gone. The harness here, that's all gone. Brick thing that sits down here, I don't even know what it does, but all gone. So that is that is one of the biggest things you can do to completely simplify the entire engine bay. Just get rid of a ton of wiring, because wiring is one of those things where it's a ton of work to hide it, unless you just go all out and completely rewire your car. Once you've done all those things, obviously paint your engine bay, either to match your car like I did with the engine out. Don't be an idiot that just masks the engine and a bunch of stuff in it. That's stupid. You'll never get a good paint job that way. Pull your engine out, paint the engine bay, either to match your car or some Hot Boy color or something. Depends on what you're doing with the rest of the car. And then also powder coat the valve covers and intake. The raw aluminum on this engine is pretty hard to keep clean. Most valve covers already come painted, like, you know, SR20 is a bunch of stuff. Just refreshing those with a new powder coat is nice, but powder coating this engine makes it really look good. And you know, wrinkle red is king. Wrinkle red is the best, especially on valve covers. Makes it look like a Ferrari engine, even though this is better than a Ferrari engine. Like I said in the beginning, my engine bay is not the absolute cleanest, but it does look pretty decent. And I could go further. I could, you know, hide my throttle cable. I could hide these PTFE lines better. I could hide the engine harness better. Could get a proper length clutch line, but for some reason Collins sends this insane one. Don't ever get Collins. So I could go further. You know, there's always more to tuck away. I could tuck those wires and tuck those wires, everything. So you can go as far or as not as far as you want, but these are just some of the tips, some of the things that I've done to my engine bay to make it look clean. It's still a race car. I still want it to be easily accessible, everything to work on. So that's why I haven't really gone crazy with all the tucking and everything that I've done. So I hope you guys like this video, especially SC guys, SC400 guys. Hopefully this is helpful to get your engine bay looking cleaner. Make sure you check out those products that I was talking about. That's gonna be it for this video, ding dongs. I'm gonna go inside and cool off because it is hot as hell in Chicago. The angle kit will be done next week and it's gonna be badass. So peace out, ding dongs, stay sweet, and I'll see you guys next week.
America, America. Do you have your passport? Did you get your job?